I'm like, man, is this the end? And then once I came back down to reality and started utilizing it, we use ChatGPT for our team members to ask better questions.
James Baskin, the founder of the OutSource Kings. He's going to be joining us once again on the podcast. And over the last few years, his business has been at the forefront of leveraging everything from virtual assistants, AI technology, helping to transform the outsourcing landscape. But today, I want to debunk myths around job losses due to outsourcing, to employing ChatGPT tools for data processing and client assistance, because James is here to provide a more panoramic view of how innovation intersects. And as I said, we're going to bust a few myths along the way. So whether you are a business leader grappling with the intricacies of outsourcing, or you're just fascinated by the role of AI and what it could be playing in transforming traditional business models, you're in for a treat, because not only that, we're going to wash it down with a few great tunes too. We've got so much to talk about. I'm always excited when we get him on here, so buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Florida, where James Baskin is waiting to join us once again. So a huge warm welcome back to the podcast. An incredible 3 years have passed since we last spoke. You shared the story behind the OutSource Kings and why you have the crown to prove it. But can you just remind everyone with a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm James-King Baskin, founder of OutSource Kings. We have a company in both the Philippines and Colombia where we are outsourced and employment setting for our contractors and business owners that we work with.
And the world has changed so much since we last spoke 3 years ago. I mean,
a lot.
I just count on my fingers here. We've had a global pandemic, global conflict, economic uncertainty, and the arrival of ChatGPT. It's insane, isn't it?
And aliens are real apparently now.
Yeah, and not to mention the interdimensional stuff as well. But there's a rabbit hole for another podcast.
Yeah.
How has all this impacted you and your business?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I'll be honest. At first, there was like fear of what was going to happen. I kind of always, not always, but certain things I'm like, man, is this the end? And then once I came back down to reality and started utilizing it, we use ChatGPT for our team members to ask better questions. So now we can take people that are virtual assistants, they can combine the information that they have and they put that into query or a custom profile, prompts is what they call them. And then they ask a better question to either myself or to my client. So it's a good assistant tool. And also something that we started doing was creating these prompts based around our client. So what I mean by that is taking all the, like you have a note taker right now, taking the notes from that, putting that in the ChatGPT to give it information and to kind of create like a mini version of that person. So that you could create like what I would, I'll use you for instance. We could create a Neil bot, so to speak. And then if I have a question for Neil, well, Neil is super busy. I mean, I know I booked this podcast a couple months out. Maybe I have all these notes from Neil, but the bot has it and I can ask the bot questions in advance. So that's what I'm working on now. So that way my team can be assisted without having to keep on going to the client or going to myself and that kind of thing.
Oh man, that sounds incredibly cool. And when do you think that will be out? It sounds like we need to get you back on in the future.
That's more, when I say bot, I don't mean like, oh, it's going to be something that we release. It's more an internal process to help us with our current clients because it would only be personal for each person. So what I mean by that is anyone can do this right now. I mean, just to kind of give some game or some information for your listeners, if you have someone that you work with and you have Zoom recordings, take those recordings. Zoom has AI technology now that will automatically transcribe your Zooms, or you can upload them into a software called Otter and then transcribe them, give ChatGPT that text of the Zoom. And then now maybe you can't get on a Zoom call with your client, or, I mean, we'll keep it in business. If you're with your client, you can then ask the ChatGPT questions based around previous Zooms. And so that's what we're doing. So when I say creating a bot around someone, it's particular for your client. And then that's going to help you with maybe data information that you need help with. And so it's just a really good assistant tool in terms of that.
Yeah, it's something that I've been playing with as well. I think as someone that writes for a living, I had the exact same thing as you. First of all, I thought, oh man, that's it. It's the end for me. But then I quickly learned, like you said there, if I've got a transcription of a podcast episode, I can put that in to ChatGPT. I can get a summary of everything that we talked about. I can maybe pull a few quotes out for articles of some of those experts that I spoke with. The only limitation I have at the minute is there's a bit of a limit. I think it's something like 2,000 words that you can paste in at the moment.
You have to upload or email it to it, and then it will process it. And then there are, how do I phrase this in simple terms for myself, because I'm not a code guy, but there's a prompt that you can put into it that someone's already built that will basically like trigger a delay for each time you put 2,000 words. And then it will even have like they've created, it's crazy what these kids have created. I say kids because they're always kids online. They've created like a progress bar that's built into ChatGPT, which is code that ChatGPT creates. And the progress bar shows how far all the text you've pasted in there. And it's all created through AI. And so you can, because I ran into the same thing at first also. I took like a whole document and I'm like, oh, this thing can't upload it all. Well, stupid me. Apparently someone's created something that times it and it only pastes 2,000 words from all your text every like 10 seconds. And then after a little bit, your whole document's there and you don't even have to do it. You just paste it and they've created the thing. I can send you a YouTube link on that later on. That was something that I was like, oh, well, you only can do 2,000 limits. Well, I was wrong. And these people have created a code that you give to ChatGPT and then it's modifying ChatGPT. But once you've modified it, well, guess what? Now you've modified it and now it knows this and now you can do this. And they created a progress bar that ChatGPT created for itself because it's, machine learning kind of thing.
Wow, that is a game changer. Man, I will be getting that link off you. That'll be keeping me busy and quiet and out of trouble this weekend. And
Sure.
I'm curious, though, from everything that you're seeing, all the conversations that you're having with global clients, what's the number one challenge businesses are having with outsourcing this year? Is there any trends or themes around that, the kind of questions you're getting?
Yeah, and maybe this will kind of free lead into another question that maybe you possibly might have, but we've switched up a lot of things that we have done in terms of our call-in and follow-up process to people management services. At the end of the day, a lot of businesses, they want to have someone working for them, whether it's an employee, if they can afford it in the US, or it's an outsourced person, but they don't have the capacity to manage it. So where I'm seeing the trend already is people want this. They want an outsourced employee. They want a virtual assistant, whatever that looks like. They don't have the capacity to manage it. And so what I took on was, hey, we've got a team. We'll manage it for you. You pay us a fee. We'll pay the people. We'll take care of all their healthcare. We'll take care of all their expenses. We'll take care of if they're sick. I'm covering medical expenses for people in Colombia, people in the Philippines. I got a lot of people dependent on me. And all that stuff, we'll take care of all that. And then guess what? The big thing that you're looking for is the work to get done. We'll take care to make sure all that work gets done. We monitor, we oversee, we make sure it's to your satisfaction. And well, guess what? We'll do it in your backyard. We'll do it in your system. So that's another thing also. A lot of people, they want someone to help, but they don't have the capacity to do it. And then they want it done their way, not my way. Everyone nowadays has a fancy, flashy CRM they want to offer someone. Oh, it's the best thing ever since sliced bread. It's like, hey, whatever you want to use, we'll help you in your system. If you want us to use our system and you want to learn from us and what we're doing, great. But if you have some custom tailored CRM that you want us to go into, cool, we'll do it. And so keeping everything in like native in someone's backyard is the big trend. And people just wanting things done their way. It's like McDonald's, Burger King, have it your way kind of thing. It's like, let's just do that.
And there's so many myths and misconceptions around outsourcing, and I always try and bust a few myths around any topic every single day. And as soon as you use the word outsourcing, it's going to conjure a reaction in some people. I know a lot of businesses don't call it that. They call it right sourcing because it's about getting the right people in place because of some of the stigma or myths around it. So I've got to ask, are there any myths that we can finally lay to rest today about outsourcing?
That's a great question, man. I was traveling last week and I got on the airplane, and this is the first time I've ever had this experience, by the way, where it was someone that I knew that was the steward, and they knew who I was, and they knew me from years ago, and they didn't even know I even had a company, just a friend from another city, and I'm in a foreign country, and this friend from another city in the U.S., it's like I'm in South America, and here's some person from Florida that's the steward on the plane, and he didn't even know what I did. And he right away, he recognized me. He said hello. And I told him what I did. And he's like, to be completely honest with you, I disagree with everything with outsourcing. And I asked him, and he had his beliefs. And I guess I could say respectful enough that I told him, I said, I respect your opinion. I disagree, but I respect your opinion. The beliefs that I had early on, and that I think I really can lay to rest for at least my work, I can't speak for other companies because it's a bold statement that I'm going to make, is that I thought we were going to take away from people's jobs. And that definitely kind of, if I feel like when I felt ChatGPT came along was going to take away, because I literally had calls of people that were trying to scare me into buying their services, telling me that all my team was going to be replaced. I've hired 3 more people in the last 2 weeks, and I got 2 more I'm hiring in the next 2 weeks. It's like, we'll be at 15 to 20 employees within probably the end of the year. And it's like, I was afraid that I was going to fire people. And then outsourcing, I was afraid that US people were going to lose their job. And I didn't want to have that on my conscience. And we have something going on right now with the client. And the first thing I asked him was, hey, is this young mother going to lose her job with what we're doing? I don't take pride in that. Trust me. I mean, I want to assist that young mother in what she's doing because I also have young mothers in the Philippines and Colombia that work for me. So it's like, I'm American first. And it's like, we're outsourcing to do the tasks that a lot of US businesses either aren't doing at all or to help assist the people. So the people that like are doing something can do something that's, I guess, more useful in the company. So I think one myth was that these people are going to take all these jobs kind of thing. Now, I do think there's multiple forms of outsourcing. And this is what I told my friend who was the flight attendant. I said, manufacturing, I might be a hypocrite, but I think we need to be doing that in the US. Now, phone calls where you're getting people yelling at you all day, or phone calls where you're diffusing situations like tech support. We've worked with some, since we've last spoke, we've worked with some major brands, some Fortune 100 companies. And it's like, I don't think that's the best use of someone's time in the US. That could be designing something, could be creating something, and having someone overseas who's trained and capable, given a wage that empowers them, I think is the best use. So just the myth was, I had this myth that I was going to take away from people's jobs, and it's definitely not been that one. Let me mute my phone. Sorry about that. So that was one big myth that I wanted to kind of elaborate and cover on.
And obviously this is a tech podcast. I've got to ask, we've talked about how technology or ChatGPT came along, you thought this was the end. How is it impacting you positively too, especially on how you're helping people and businesses outsource and grow their team? Because that's the business value of what you do here, isn't it?
Yeah. So the big thing, and kind of going back to what I probably alluded to it already, and the short answer is with what I mentioned earlier with how we can ask better questions, it's having the data already. So I like to speak in perfect examples, and I'll speak for you. If I have data already from, let's say, if you asked me right now and you said, do you remember what you said 3 years ago? I think you already know what I'm going to say. Probably not. Probably not. And now if we had that data and you asked me live and I had it already plugged into ChatGPT, maybe I could stall for a second and I could say, hey, give me 1 second. ChatGPT, what did I say about XYZ or this thing? Or if I recall, you had William Shatner on your podcast a couple years ago. And so that's just my memory. Now, there might be another instance, and you said, well, what question did I ask about William Shatner? Oh, cool. What question did he ask? And if I have those notes now, and so if there was something related to a call that we had, and this is what we're in real time working on, we don't have it completed, but it's more of an internal SOP, having that stuff in advance. So that way, when these kind of things do come up, it's like, oh, AI can then better assist us. So it's a really good assistant tool. I don't think it's true machine learning. None of this stuff, by the way, is any new. I went to a conference with Amazon Web Server, AWS, and Google. I got invited to it about 3 years ago. Unfortunately, it's one of those ones that you have to apply for. And if you don't get accepted, you don't get accepted. I got accepted 3 years ago. Haven't got accepted since. Just got a decline letter last month. Is what it is. But this is the one kind of conference where when you go, they give you a chance to donate to offset your carbon footprint because all the guys are flying their jets there. So it's one of those rich boy conferences where it's like, oh, I felt better because I donated to offset my carbon. Because at first I was like, why would they have that? Then my friend was like, that's because everyone's flying their jets. And so Amazon was there. This is 3 years ago, by the way. This is like not last year. This is 3 years ago. And they were talking about how good thing Florida was open during the pandemic. And they were talking about how they had AI that was answering people's questions, and then it would get escalated to another person. So I was sitting there and I was like, oh, wow, this is incredible. And then when this came out, I was like, wait a second, Amazon's already been utilizing this stuff. And so I think a misconception with a lot of AI stuff is that this is brand new technology. The biggest thing I think that ChatGPT did that was pure genius, and I rarely even talk about ChatGPT, but I got to give them credit. They made the stupid, simple user face that a grandma could go into and be like, tell me about Matlock or MASH episode in 1980. And they made it so simple that they could just type there and that was it. And this technology is not new, but they made a user interface that a UI, we'll call it, that just anyone could use. And the beautiful thing is we can use it to ask good questions to empower our people.
Wow, incredibly cool. And obviously, it sounds like you've got your finger on the pulse around so much of this stuff. Are there any other tech trends that excite you right now? Because 2024 is only a few months away. I wondered if there was anything else you've got your eye on.
Trend-wise, I don't know if it's a trend. It's just something that this is, you're UK, so you probably know about the show Black Mirror, right?
Yes, yeah. When you mentioned a Neobot, straight away I was thinking it's like a Black Mirror episode here.
Oh, man. So if you remember in Black Mirror, there was a black and white episode where it had dogs that were chasing people around.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if you want me to share my screen ever or send this to you later on. Those dogs are available on Amazon right now, and you can code those dogs and they can perform tasks for you. I don't know if you've ever had anyone share their screen. And if you want me to share my screen, I can show you one of those dogs right now. Those dogs, and you're going to freak out when I show this to you. I freaked out when I saw this, and this one is not necessarily at the level that was at, but this is the one that I looked at right here. So this is AI visual recognition dog that you can teach code, Python. It's a programmable dog. This is what I wouldn't say that I'm looking at in a positive way. This is something that quite freaks me the hell out. And what's even more scary is in the ratings, fortunately, there's only 5 people that rated it, but there's people talking about how they're actually walking around outside with this thing like it's an actual pet. And it has visual recognition. It's a bionic robot dog. It can pick things up. It can scan packages. It can do all kinds of little things. And it's actual true machine learning. And you can code it. You can mod it. And so not necessarily a trend, but something I'm watching for is what they're doing with this stuff. And I'm not even the biggest AI guy, but you asked me about some stuff that I'm looking on for 2024. Well, I'm looking what the workforce is going to turn into, because yes, I'm an outsourced company. I'm always trying to think in advance kind of thing. And I want my people to be best served. I don't think a dog that scans people's faces is going to best serve anyone, to be honest with you. And so that was just a random, I didn't want to spend too much time on that, but a far left field type of moment that I wanted to show you with stuff that's out there right now.
Wow, absolutely incredible. And what about yourself? What's next for Outsource Kings? Is there anything you can share about what you're focusing on, where you go from here, etc.?
People management for construction companies. Construction companies is our niche. We're literally backed up right now. I'm at capacity in terms of what we can even handle. We're growing faster than I can handle. It's been a lot in the last couple of years that we've been fortunate. We have the kids party coming up every Halloween in South America. I do a kids party. Maybe you've seen it online. I'll send you a picture of it if you haven't. I rent a couple horses, and then we bring the horses into this neighborhood that I live in. The kids will come, they get candy, there's face painters, there's a bounce house. I bring a clown in. I sponsor a whole entire event. Last year we had about 50 kids. The first year we had about 100 kids. And then we promote this party, and this will be year 3. And so that's the cool stuff that I get to do with my company in terms of charitable work, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But in terms of like our service is just people management at this point. Now it's in a phone call capacity, but just people management is what we're focused on.
And what's your outfit? Do you wear the same outfit every year, or do you have something different?
So last year for Halloween, I was, if you've ever seen Game of Thrones.
Yes.
So I was the White Walker King.
Oh, good. Oh, I should have guessed, man. Yeah.
I was the White Walker King, and I'll have to send you the photo. Maybe we should use that for the podcast. Literally, the photo is amazing. And the makeup artist that I hired, it took her probably about 3 hours of makeup. It wasn't like some cheap mock-up. It was about 3 hours of makeup. I had one eye that was just pure white, and I couldn't even see out of it. It was a dumb decision because I'm trying to like run around and have this party, and I can only see out of one eye. But it was pure white, like the White Walkers. And then I had a crown, and then I was riding around on a horse, and it's just sheer ridiculousness. And it was the only thing I would have done differently would have been had enough time to actually get like an outfit other than just like pure makeup thing. But I was White Walker.
Oh, absolutely love it, man. That's what I love about you. You always take things to another level. Brilliant.
Yep.
Since we last spoke, I always finish the podcast having a bit of fun with my guests, and I've got a Spotify playlist and an Amazon wish list. All I know is I ask my guests if there's something that they'd like to add to either of those. Maybe it's a guilty pleasure, maybe it's a song they just like to rock out to, or if there's a more serious individual, maybe they want a book they want to recommend. But all I'm going to ask is, what would you like to leave everyone listening with today, and why?
Yeah, I think there's only 2 songs. I know you asked for one, but I'll give 2 just because I like 2 songs that kind of are different moods. And the one song that I always go back to, and I'm a huge fan of this band, and it's Metallica. And Metallica, 4 Horsemen, I think is just an incredible song just to get amped up. And then the other song is by a UK band, The Who. And it's not a super well-known song, but every once in a while you might hear it on the radio, and it's called Eminence Front. And Eminence Front, just the whole buildup of the song is just, it's one of those songs like, you're just like, it's not like the 4 Horsemen, it's way different. But if you've heard the song, have you heard it?
Yeah.
It's an experience. And so I think that those would probably be my 2 songs.
Oh man, 2 killer tunes there. I'm going to be doing the windmill a little bit later there, rocking out to that. So I'll get that added straight to the Spotify playlist. And for yourself, anyone wants to just connect with you, find out more information, you've got incredibly entertaining social media feeds as well, or they want to find out more about the serious side, the Outsource Kings. Where would you like to point everyone listening?
Yeah, outsourcekings.com on obviously the internet, and then Connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn, James-King Baskin. I'm about just practically at this point, anything that we know or anything that we're doing, I'm just telling people. As I mentioned, like it's coming down to people management for me at this point. So if you want a copy of our book, I'll give you a copy. If you're US based, I'll ship you a copy. I'm not looking for any money on that. I'll cover the cost of shipping. If you're coming from Neil's podcast, you're not going to have to pay for anything for the book. I'll cover the cost, and then you can have the book and you can learn about what we're doing. So the book is on Amazon. If you'd rather just buy it yourself, Outsource Kings, it's about appointment setting on Amazon, how to hire your first virtual assistant is what it's called. And yeah, that's the best way to connect with me.
Fantastic. Well, I'll get those links added to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. If you do send me those images, I want to see that image of you as a White Walker and the Chat GPT thing. If you send me those, I'll add those in as well.
Yep.
But I can't believe it's 3 years since we spoke. We cannot leave it 3 years till we speak again, and we still need a beer together at some point. So I'll be staying in touch with you, but just huge pleasure as always, John.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't get to mention, or maybe I mentioned over chat, sorry for the loss of your father. I know the past couple of years that happened, and it has been a long time. And absolutely, I mean, wherever you're at in the world right now, eventually we'll link up in person, and I'll join you for a coffee. I don't drink beer, but I'll join you for a coffee.
Coffee it is, my friend. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. Happy to help.
What a profound journey into the world of outsourcing and technology. And a big thank you to James Baskin for peeling back the layers of a subject that many find complex, some frightening, daunting, overwhelming. And I also respect him for being so open and honest that when ChatGPT first came out, he thought, is this the end? But no, he's evolving with it and using it to help his customers. And from challenging the status quo to outsourcing takes away jobs, technology takes away jobs, to discussing how AI has the power to both enhance our capacities while also posing those ethical questions. Don't get me wrong, they are incredibly important, especially around the bionic robot dog that we talked about there. But I think it's not every day we get to hear about combining people management skills with charitable endeavours like kids' Halloween parties. And let's not forget James's personal recommendation of songs by Metallica and The Who. Because let's face it, a balanced life is not all work and no play. And that's why I always enjoy it. That's why I always enjoy getting James on here. And remember, James also generously offered to send copies of his book, Outsource Kings, to anyone listening. And who knows, we might even catch up with him with a cup of coffee to continue that compelling conversation. So please reach out to him. He's such a great guy and incredibly approachable. So please reach out to him if you'd like to carry this conversation on. But equally, if you've got something else that you feel passionate about, that you feel we missed from today's conversation, send me a quick email, techblogwriter@outlook.com. If you'd like to come on here, there's an open invite for you to come on too. But I'm signing off now, and until our next deep dive into the fascinating universe where technology meets real-world problem solving. So hopefully you'll join me again tomorrow. But thank you for listening as always, and until next time, don't be a stranger.